Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Kickback, man. I am your host, Ben Holmes, and today we have another special episode for you. Today we'll be interviewing and speaking with Timothy Nurse. He goes from the corporate world by 1 minute by doing social events here in Charlotte for charity, and he also dabbles in some real estate. So this was a great conversation, and we even went off rail a little bit. We talked about family. We talked about going from a single man to a married man, and just some really nuanced conversations that I think you guys might enjoy, man. So sit back, relax, and just welcome to another episode of the Kickback. First and foremost, man, we'd like to welcome Tim Nurse to the platform, and
thank you,
man, I appreciate you coming in,
I'm
man.
happy for being here, man. I made it to the boardroom. You know what I'm saying? I'm here.
True that, man. So, first and foremost, man, just want to get into who you are as a man, I guess who you are as a person, and how you got to where you are today.
All right. Well, first, thank you for having me here.
Absolutely.
I feel honored to be a part of the boardroom and welcome me into your home. So, Timothy Nurse, from Brooklyn, New York, always represent. You know what I'm saying? Vinny Styles.
Hey, man, if you know this dude right here, man, he's gonna rep Brooklyn to the fullest, man. He's Mr. Jay-Z, Tim wearing. Like, he's corporate at the end of the day, but hey, he'll switch it up in a minute, man. It's my guy.
So basically, here in Charlotte, but started in Brooklyn. Played basketball in college, a couple years at a school called Nyack College, a Christian college. So my mom, raised me in the church and kind of made me kind of go to Christian schools, which I end up enjoying in life. After graduating from Nyack, I worked in Lower Manhattan on Wall Street, literally on Wall Street, at Standard & Poor's for 5 years. Did something called bond pricing, which is basically putting numbers out for bonds in the high yield market. Did that for 5 years, and then I went back to school in DC. I went to Howard University, HU.
HU. All right, we represent HBCUs. Yeah. I went to a private white school, not private white school, but I went to UNCC. But I still show love to my HBCUs for sure.
Yeah. So that was a great time in DC. And then after graduating from getting my MBA, I came down to Charlotte, got a job at the bank. I'll just say the bank.
We'll leave it.
Yeah, I got a job at the bank, and then being at the bank now for 9 years, and over the 9 years had a lot of different roles. And I currently work in a group called Enterprise Payments. So when you think about cash apping somebody or Zelling somebody some money, our role is to figure out quicker ways that you can make a payment. So if I'm paying you money because you sold me a product, or I owe you money, or we made a bet, or whatever, what's the best way I can send you money digitally? So that's kind of the role I'm in now. Been in that team now for 2 years, and it's been great. So that's a really quick and dirty.
Oh man, well, I mean, he's very humble in his background. First and foremost, this man has came in, climbed the corporate ladder. And he also has some outside endeavors that we'll get into as well. But I mean, this is a very well-rounded brother, man, and
appreciate that.
I guess we'll just kind of start a little bit here, right? Because think about my audience, and I know something that stood out to me is you playing ball in college, man. Let's just kind of start there and kind of navigate through that experience. What was that like?
So I wasn't recruited to play basketball in college.
Okay.
I was one of those guys who played in the park all the time. I played 1 year in high school, so I wasn't like a serious baller through 4 years of high school, but I'm an avid basketball player. Well, I was an avid basketball player and a big NBA fanatic actually. And when I went to college, I managed. I was a manager actually. I was a manager for 1 year. Not a lot of people knew that. So sophomore year I managed, and I helped it, and I redshirted at the same time. So I didn't come to school for a redshirt. My sophomore year of college, I managed a team and I literally practiced. So I helped set up. I came like an hour early, set up everything the way the coach wanted it, and I actually practiced with the team, ran suicides, and I had like a assistant manager that did the clock and stuff like that. And then the year after that, I walked onto the team, got a nice little scholarship, had a nice little hustle with the management thing too. And then I played 2 years. So I played my junior and senior year of basketball. And big man off the bench, played defense, rebound, block shots. I was extremely physical player. So I was very, very physical. And I say like Joe Noah would be the best comparison to how I played in college. So very, very just defensive minded, very physical. So
man, that's dope, man. Because like, I mean, and we're gonna have a few different athletes on this show, man. But even within that story, just the perseverance that it took, number one, to go from a manager to a walk-on to then obtaining a scholarship, man. Like, I think that's very important because, you know, it shows the level of commitment in whatever you do. And I mean, and you could probably even see or talk about how that translated or spilled over into your personal and corporate life, right? I mean, so what values could you, I guess, you know, talk about that you gained in that experience that you can even use today?
So the coach I had in my sophomore year was different from my coach from my junior and senior year, but I learned two things from two different men. And one thing I learned from the first coach when I was just straight up managing the team, washing clothes and all that stuff, was be consistent and be on time. Another thing I learned is if you're running late, do not walk in the room.
Yeah,
so if you're running late to something, run into the room. Like, even if you walk up to the door where they can see you, make sure you dart in there. And that's another thing I learned. The second coach, one thing that I learned from him was championship is in the details. Now, we were not a championship team. Our record was 500 across the board. So we won games, we lost games. We won 3 in a row, we lost 3 in a row. We're kind of just right down the middle. And but he said championship is in the details. And he could always show the smallest thing how it mattered in the bigger picture. So when we thought of, like, you know, why did we lose the game? You could look at a sheet, and without watching the game, by looking at the sheet, you could look at 2-3 stats and say, this is why we lost. And he was very detail oriented, and that's something I still kind of work on today, is being detail oriented. But championships are in the details, and that's kind of like things that I still remember to this day. Oh, and you never leave a room. When you leave a room, a hotel room, a table at the restaurant, you leave it as if you were never there. That's another thing that my second coach taught me. So these are things that I still remember to this day. I still kind of say them from time to time. And I'm like, oh yeah, my coach once told me, and I just it's kind of like stuck in my head.
Right.
And I never thought I'd play college basketball, to be honest. And I could always say I played, you know. So
nah, but it's impressive, man. Championship is in the details, man. I'm taking that, you know what I mean? I'm definitely adding that somewhere in. You actually might even see it on the IG. I'm gonna give you credit though. I'm definitely gonna give you credit.
Yeah.
But I like that, man, because I think so oftentimes, and we were just actually kind of talking about that before we came on. And when we talk about business, you talk about, you know, your corporate journey, your career journey, whatever the case may be, how we don't pay attention to details all the time, right? And I think that's what can separate you from your competition. And we have to always look at life as a competition. You know, we go into society, you know, trying to prepare our black men to be prepared to compete on the football field or the basketball field, but they are oftentimes not prepared to compete in the form of economy or in the corporate world, right? And I think detail is a very important piece to that, because when you know, go into the boardroom and, you know, you have a presentation, none of those numbers can be off. Like, you want people to be able to take what you say as gospel in a lot of the situations. So paying attention to detail definitely helps put forth that message, man. That's dope, bro.
Yeah, thanks, man.
That's super dope. So I mean, I guess even, you know, after you move along, you graduate from college and you enter the corporate world. What were some of the challenges that you were met with, I guess, as a man, number one, and then even as a black man on top of that? Okay,
so I worked at Standard & Poor's, which is, if you have a book, they help finance books. At the time, Macmillan was the name of the company. I can't remember the full name right now, but they were known for making school books. And they help finance it. They also S&P 500, right? So those are two big things Standard & Poor's was known for at the time. I interned there through college, and I had braids. So early 2000, braids was the thing.
Yeah, for sure. Iverson was our hero.
And Iverson and everybody else. Everybody who followed Iverson. So I had braids. I had long braids. I had braids with the fishtails. I had the plaits. I had all the different styles.
Did you have the two with
I had my nickname in my head. I when I was in school, I had it all. But when I was when I worked in corporate America, during my internships, I learned a very valuable lesson that carried over to my full-time role. So I interned between my years of school, and I came back and worked for the same company full-time. So I had a little bit of a head start, if you will, when I came into the full-time role. But one thing I learned is presentation is everything. So my family's Caribbean, and there was a Caribbean woman that worked at the front desk, who I could say was like my auntie, right? We weren't related at all. And she pulled me aside the first day I walked in there, and I had a herringbone chain, Right. And I had plaits. So my hair was plaited. I looked like almost like dreads almost.
You can take someone out the hood, but you can't take the hood out them.
Yeah. So she pulled me aside the first day. My first day meeting her. Her name was Anna. Never forget it. She said, you can't dress like this here. You can't. And I was like, why? You know, I'm gonna work hard. She's like, no, you can't. This is not how it works here. And she said, I don't know you, but and since then we got close. But at this point we didn't know each other. And she told me the presentation and everything. And that's one lesson I took. And even to this day, I still wear suits and I dress up even like to this day, years later.
This dude, he got like tailor suits, you know, like the whole nine, man. He be coming to work,
it's a blessing.
You know, looking super spiffy.
It's a blessing. It's a blessing. But just for the job you want, not the job you have. A lot of people say that. But also presentation and everything. I didn't know anything about suits. I didn't know anything about how to dress up. I just saw somebody do it, and I kind of took a formula that I saw that might work for me, and I made it work for me. That's kind of what I did. But that was one learning lesson I had coming from where I lived at, the neighborhood I grew up in, and working in Lower Manhattan, which is not that far from where I grew up.
So let me ask this, because I mean, and this is something that I experienced or kind of had to grapple with too with my own career, right? It's you got this one side of you that's saying, yo, I'm gonna be authentic. I want to be who I am no matter where I go, and if they don't like me, you know, forget them.
Yep.
But then you also have a side of you saying, look, I have to grow, and you dress for what you want to do, not necessarily where you are. And you're met with this dichotomy of like your old self pulling you, but your new self wanting to stretch you as well. Like, did you experience any of that as well?
Yeah, I mean, I even experienced that to this day a little bit. You know, I want to stay authentic to where I'm from and what I've been doing, but honestly, I'm not the same person I was 10 years ago. And you're not the same person you was 10 years ago either. You're going to grow and adapt. Even if you were back home in the hood, you still have to adapt and change, right? So I think that when I think about it, I don't feel like bad that I'm changed. I'm not the same person I was. I made it out. I have a house now. I have a beautiful family now. And I'm very blessed because of that. But I do think sometimes that you want to stay authentic to who you are. And I feel like I figured out how to stay true to myself, even in the workplace, and not be phony, not be fake. I talk to you like how I'm talking to you now. I talk the same way at work. Right. I talk the same way at home.
So you don't have to put on
I don't change hats.
So how you're doing.
Yeah.
So like you don't have to put on the front. Yeah.
I don't fake the voice. I don't fake any of that stuff. I do talk a little bit slower when I'm on the calls. But I do tend to talk fast from time to time. And that's the only switch up you might hear from me. But other than that, there's nothing changing my dichotomy. You know, I might have a little bit more slang when I'm talking to my boys from back home. Right. But the tone,
it's a time and place, for sure.
The tone is definitely the same. It's not a different person. So I try to keep true to myself. Home, work, wherever. Like, conversation is gonna be me. So that's something that, because I don't want to be phony, and I feel like when you try to put on another hat and act like something you're not, it's gonna show.
Nah, that's a fact, 1000%, man. And even with that, for me, I think a lot of that too, especially the era we came up in, because I mean, I don't know about you, but I was the first in my family to go to college, you know, to get, you know, that corporate job, so on and so forth. And not only does the pressure come with that, but like there's a lack of not knowing, right? Because when you look at the people that we're competing with against, their dads, their granddads, they've been giving them advice and it's tutelage from a very young age. Whereas, you know, you're dumped and sat in this environment that you got to learn on the fly. And like just trying to find mentors and things like that was very tough at first. Like, how do you feel, number one, about that mentor relationship, how important it is, and number two, I guess, what are some of the hacks that you've kind of had to adjust with through that process?
So I think a first question about the mentorship, I think mentorship is key. It is the only way to succeed anywhere in life. I think that if you're a golfer, you want a golf mentor. If you're in corporate America, you want a corporate American mentor. If you're a dad, you want a dad mentor. Sometimes some people could be the same person.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? But somebody who has been there that could take you raw, like your raw emotions, your raw feelings, and then help manifest that into positive feelings, and you could be vulnerable with them and stuff like that. So I think that's important. I am fortunate to now have mentors in all these different facets of life that I could be vulnerable and say, hey, I don't feel like I'm a good dad today. Or I could be like, hey, I don't feel like I'm a good husband right now. You know what I'm saying? I can have that open conversation about what I went through and what I did, and they won't be judgmental. They'll take what I said and then kind of go there. I didn't grow up in a house with a father, right? So I grew up without a father. So I didn't have a man in the household. So when I had my daughter, when I was first told out my wife was pregnant, I was scared. I felt like I wasn't enough. I felt like I won't be a good dad because I didn't see it. But I mean, glory to God, I feel positive that now I don't feel like that at all anymore. Like it's still issues with me and my dad. He's still alive. I know where he is. It's not like a situation I don't know who he is and nothing like that. But it's a situation where we don't have like a real father-son relationship. It's more like we're friends. Like we crack jokes and talk about movies and stuff like that, which is cool. But then I can't rely on him for advice. You know what I'm saying? Because he hasn't shown that he could do the stuff that I need. For the stuff I need. Mentorship is key. If you do not have a mentor in areas that you're trying to grow, I always say find somebody who's doing something that you want to do in whatever area that is, and try to get time on the calendar, try to speak with them. I kind of preach that stuff to my mentees right now in corporate America as well. So it's imperative. What was the second question? It was around.
I guess how you know what? I want to put a pin there because you said something that I want to touch on.
Okay, go ahead.
So to kind of put a bow on that, it's very important, if I'm hearing correctly from your lens, that having multiple mentors, because no one's going to be an expert in everything.
Yes.
So you want to find that person that's good at, a spiritual mentor, a corporate mentor, so on and so forth, to kind of help guide through those different facets of life. But I want to kind of take a quick step back because you started to mention a little bit about preparing to be a dad, and how just that process was a little. You was a little nervous at first. Can you say, number one, the motivation of you wanting to be a good dad was a part of a lack of you not having?
That's 100% correct. So me not having a dad, being in some crazy scenarios where there's no grown man in the room, where there needs to be a grown man in the room, and then being a young boy in the room, it's just tough watching as a kid to see my mom do certain things and stuff like that. So that molded me to this day. I mean, that's kind of like a fire factor. So and I'm open to talking about that stuff. Like it's emotional, you know what I'm saying? But
not for real.
But I love my dad. I mean, we talked. We had a great conversation. When I was 30, I sat down with him. We had a keep it real conversation, and that kind of mended our relationship. But prior to that conversation, I had like a anger. You know what I'm saying? When it came to him.
And I mean, even in my situation, right? Like I grew up with a dad, but I didn't grow up with a mom. So it's very similar, but again, there are certain things that a mom should bring to the table, certain things that a dad should bring to the table. And even when I was going down my journey of just marriage, fatherhood, so on and so forth, I turned a lot of that pain into purpose, right? Because you see what you did not have, or some of the things that what it should look like, and you're intentional about the decisions you're making. And I think that's here at Boardroom Vision, that's what we really want to stress, right, is the importance of purpose, because I think purpose is one of those things that it pushes your motivation, it pushes your decision making. Like if you have the right vision, like you won't have to tell somebody not to do something they're not supposed to, because they're not going to put their future at risk. They're not going to jeopardize their family or certain things to satisfy a instant moment. And I think that's important, man.
It is definitely important to take the so question I've heard before in a book I read, it was like, would you take $100 today or $100 next year, or $200 next year? I'm sorry, take $100 today or $200 next year. And a lot of people would say take $100 today because I can see the $100 tangible, right? But if you know anything about math, time value of money, the $200 next year is way more valuable than the $100 today. And people act that way towards a lot of things for that instant gratification that you kind of talked about, and they want to get it right now, and Instagram and stuff. Social media doesn't help,
right?
But working to get that long-term goal will help magnify whatever you put your focus into, because it could be being a father, it could be doing anything else like that. But I think that, like you said, it is about trying to. I mean, I think about trying not to go through your 7 pillars of focus, but it's about trying to make sure that you are focused on the right thing for the long-term game. So,
that's dope, man. And I mean, while we're here on family, man, I just this is a topic for me that I love, because as a black man, right, especially growing up in the era we're growing in, like I'm 34 for the audience, right, and I sharpened my teeth in that late 90s, early 2000s time period, where music glorified, sex, money, and women. You know what I mean? And those were the things that you chased. So looking at myself in today's time, where I went from, trying to club every night to, go out and do certain things, to really with just wanting to be a family man, like doing all the corny stuff I seen on 90s sitcoms and being okay and happy with it.
Yeah.
Like, it's a different space, but it took me a while to get to that place, like to really understand the importance of family. Like, what can you speak to your journey and get into? Because I mean, this dude right here, man, like him, his wife, his daughter, man, like they are a beautiful family. Like, and he really lives what he posts, what he talk about, man. Like, family is very important to him. So I'm just interested to hear like how you got to the place that you are.
So I'll start in my late teens. I started about have real conversations, talk about sex, right? So started having sex, mid-teens, early high school, throughout high school, and a lot of women I had sex with were older than me because the guys I hung out with in my block were older than me. So think about like 10 guys, one is 14, the rest are like 20 to 28. And they going out having, so I'm just kind of following them. We going out, we meeting the same group of girls. I'm meeting one girl in the group.
Passing back the ID. So that's that game though.
And so because I grew up like that in high school, when I got to college, still was about getting women, trying to chase, get the most women, get the most women, get the most women. Then I got out of college. I worked in Lower Manhattan. Now I'm seeing more corporate women. So I'm getting more, a different level of women. So I'm trying to get more women. And over time, I've had sex with a lot of women in my 20s. And then towards about 27 years old, I had like a revelation, and it's very weird. It was I was waking up next to somebody who I did not care about. I literally woke up, she's laying there, and I'm looking at her, and in my mind I said, I can't live the rest of my life like this. It was like a light bulb went off in my head and said, you guys, like, this is not really what it is. It's not what it's supposed to be like.
That's God, by the way.
Yeah.
Looking back at it, you probably 100%. Know what it is for sure.
And that's after, let's say, 12 years of me just chasing as many women as possible, and conquering, quote unquote, conquering as many women as possible, kind of living that lifestyle. And I didn't want it anymore. So at 27, I made a mental decision that I'm gonna try my hardest to find the right one to make my wife and have a family, and that's kind of, and that's my mantra. I didn't meet my wife until 3 years later. I was 30 at the time. 30 was a crazy year for me, but I met her like at 30, and we got married at 32, and I had my daughter when I was 35, and now I'm 38.
Man,
so that's kind of the journey. I kind of flipped fast through the second half, but when I met my wife, I was ready. And every woman
you started doing the pre-work before then.
And every woman I met
during that time, that's
exactly.
good.
So at 27, every woman I met after that was a lot more intentional about long-term conversations, even though I still was having sex with them. It wasn't like a situation like before where I was just kind of like knocking them down and just trying to throw them away. It's like, let me see what we could build. We may not have sex, but let's see if we could build something. And nothing worked out in any of those scenarios. And I met my wife while I was literally passing through Chicago for a couple months, and she lives in Chicago. We just met at an event, and she walked up to me, started talking, and had a lot of stuff in common, and it felt good. The best part about it was that I had scenarios in the past where it felt good and fell apart, but I knew what felt good felt like. So I kind of knew this has some legs, so I put some more energy and investment into, into that situation. So now we have a beautiful daughter, and I'll say this here on the Boardroom, we're expecting number 2.
Oh wow! Hey, I did not know that. That's what's up.
Thank you.
Hey,
so that's
look, see, we break news here at the Boardroom, man.
That's what we do in the Boardroom, man. That's what we do.
That's what's up.
So right now she's say 8 weeks or something like that. So it's very early.
Man, congrats!
So thank you.
Dang, that's dope.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a blessing.
So hold on, I gotta interject. So beforehand, we sit here talking about daycare, and I'm like, man, I don't know, daycare for 2, boy, it got to be crazy. You sitting there holding on to that. He didn't want to interject at all.
Hey, man, I was waiting for the poll. We're going to do a poll vision. You know what I'm saying?
That's real.
We can do this.
That's real. Yeah, man, I'm proud of you, man. That's what's up.
Thank you, bro. It's a blessing,
man.
So they'll be 3 years apart. In April.
That's good,
so
man.
We'll see. We'll keep prayed up and.
Nah, for sure. We definitely gonna make sure y'all covered too, man. That's dope, bro. That's super dope. Yeah. I mean, I love it, man. And I love family. It's like, for me, I always would think about the things that I would lose whenever it was time for me to either get married or have children, so on and so forth, right? It's like, man, who wants to be stuck in the house watching kids all day? I want the freedom to go to the bar, do this. But like, it's so much rewarding on this side, bro. Like, to be able to like if my wife wants to use my phone and hand over my phone without having to clear text messages and hide, like
it's definitely freeing.
Oh, bro,
it is freeing. I'm not gonna lie. I'm being on both sides of the fence. I mean, I literally was on both sides of the fence. So I was literally working in Manhattan, going to the clubs in Midtown Manhattan, and all that. You know what I'm saying? Meeting girls and having fun. And now I'm on the other side where I have a townhouse and I have a daughter and a wife. I want to say that there's a lot more relief on this side of the house than this side of the house. This side of the house, it has a few highs. Right. And a lot of lows. Yeah. Where there's a lot of emotions for women that you don't care about. Yeah. That want more of your time and your energy. You really don't feel like giving them. Sometimes you just entertain just to entertain them, and
or entertain for personal gain.
Yeah, or in it for personal gain. Yeah, exactly. But then it's always short lived. It's always short lived. Like in New York, I had a nice roster. I'm not gonna lie, I had a really nice roster, but it was to the point where I knew that it's not the life that I wanted to live for the long term.
It's not fulfilling. It leaves you empty at the end of the day because you realize, like, man, she get on my nerves, and you hit another one. It's like, this ain't the. It's always the feeling of searching, and it's just like, man, you know what? When you got a good one, and here's the other piece too, man, like that you can truly build something with, man. Like for me and my wife, it's important to have joint accounts and a lot of the same aspirations because. You know, it makes us talk about our future a lot. You know what I mean? To the point where, you know, when we got married, I came in with a lot of credit card debt, man. Like, again, I was out blowing money in clubs, doing the table thing, whatever. And, you know, you just going on trips and vacations. And then you have to open up and have that conversation. And it's like, well, you know, I got a little debt. Yeah. And my wife was like, okay, let's work to get it paid off. And, you know, we'll work. We paid off my credit card debt. Then we paid off her student loans. Then you go back and forth and you look up and like you're in a real great financial position because you're working together and you have a goal heading in the right direction, man. And I think that's something that can't be overlooked when it comes to family is that, like, when it's time, you really have to look at this as a team. Like, it can't be no... You know, well, you got your own accounts, I got my accounts, and you know,
you pay for this,
you pay for that. You know,
that doesn't work.
Like it's tough.
It's tough that way. We definitely built a lot together. So right now, we have 3 properties in Chicago that we have rental properties. We have a townhome in Charlotte that we live in downtown, and we just put money down on another townhome.
For sure,
assets.
I had assets. This is stuff that's going to accumulate wealth.
So so when you're looking for a partner and you find somebody, you want somebody you could build with that is on an intellectual, at least thinking about building it. They don't have to have it right there, but at least the thought process of getting assets, buying properties, having that residual income. Just that thought process is something you want to look for in a partner. If somebody's young watching this that doesn't really have that yet, because you might not have it. And I want to say something earlier. Being a black man, you are probably the most sought after man type.
Yeah, for sure. I get what you're saying. I get exactly where you're finna go.
And I brought that to say that because you're gonna get distractions all the time. And we talked about focus a little bit earlier. So I think that if you focus on the right things, 7 pillars. Everything else that we're talking about will kind of fall into fruition where you'll have you'll be more trajectory towards having that family and building that wealth, that generational wealth that your kids can live off of.
But that's what it's about.
But you have to have the right focus in the right areas, and your right partner is going to be the main piece to kind of get those other things kind of put into place.
That's dope. Yeah, that's dope. I like that. I like that. All right, so as we sit here and we talk about just building wealth and coming together as a family, like, to me it sounds as if you guys have planned finances very strategically. I know by day you're corporate America, but you also have some side ventures, obviously real estate being one. What's your opinion on entrepreneurship versus corporate America, right? Because, you know, you're starting to see a mentality of, forget corporate America if you're not your own boss. Even going back to the Dame Dash interview for the Breakfast Club, when he was like, if you go to work, you got and call another man daddy if you were a boss or something like that. Like, which I got my own thoughts of. I'll share mine after he shared his. But like, what's your thoughts on the balance, or I guess the choice of entrepreneurship versus corporate America?
I think that you need a mixture of both to be successful. So I think that if you are a single individual and you want to be an entrepreneur, you need some corporate America experience to be successful. Reason being is that you have to know how they work. Corporate America has a lot of different pieces of it that you wouldn't even know about. Not just branding, but you have legal, you have compliance, you have supply chain,
For sure.
you have finance, which is the obvious one. But these are areas that you have to be good at if you want to own your own business, because you're going to have to be all these different things at once, if starting off by yourself. If you are in a relationship with somebody, and possibly, hopefully married with somebody, you can kind of do a play on both, where you have one person as the corporate person, which gets you get the benefits of having benefits,
Right.
you know what I'm saying, like health benefits, and then you have the other person kind of shooting the dream as being an entrepreneur. I am fortunate to be in that latter scenario where my wife is a full-time entrepreneur. She owns her own business, a very successful social media business, Diamond Mind Social Media.
Hey, check it out.
I'll
put it at the bottom here. I'll make sure.
And I work corporate for the bank, and it works out where I get to help her with her business because I have the mindset of make sure she's compliant, making sure she's doing everything the legal way. Tax, which is a huge thing for businesses, like tax benefits, how you get benefits off of tax benefits, or how do you not do anything wrong with your tax, so you have to pay back a lot of money to the government. So I think that you need corporate America to be you need a corporate America experience to be a very successful entrepreneur, or you need somebody on your team that has very successful corporate America experience. That's either one of those areas. So you could be a great entrepreneur. You could sell 1 million of a product, but you need somebody on your team that is great in corporate America, so you don't fall into any of those holes, because you could be a millionaire and be broke a year later if you don't manage your finances right by having the right team.
Or be a millionaire and go to jail because taxes
Yep.
have been evaded over the past so many years. We've seen that in a lot of different instances, right, with celebrities and just accountants that have gotten over on them. So no, I think that's a very good point, man. Like for me, I look at it as like I'm definitely all in favor of building our own tables, because I think that's what it's going to take to really have economic power in our community. I think that's what it's going to take to empower ourselves and even hire or be intentional about hiring more African Americans, because I think that evolves purpose and allows people to get learn different skill sets, so on and so forth. But I am not opposed to corporate America because it teaches a lot of discipline. You know, it teaches certain values. It allows you to see things from a corporate perspective as it relates to, you know, working for shareholders, like how to be in compliant, manage risk, so on and so forth. And most importantly, I think it can finance your vision or your purpose. And I mean, when you're doing both, you have to be able to time manage. And like, not only do you have to manage your family, but like managing a full-time corporate role as well as a full-time entrepreneur role. I mean, it's going to take, you know, efficiency. You know what I mean? You just can't step out and think, oh, I'm just going to throw stuff out every now and then. If you really want it to truly be successful, you have to be intentional about the time that you spend in certain places and what you're pushing forward toward. So
I mean, I think a lot of people want their entrepreneur business to be a corporation eventually, right? If you sell hats, you want your hats to eventually be a corporation, right? So to have that mindset, you have to know how corporations work. One thing I want to note here in a book I recently listened to, they talked about the history of why we work the way we work. And I'm not going to get the numbers right, but let's say about 100 years ago, 80% of people were owners, business owners. Like almost everybody had you owned your own barbershop, you owned your own, there was a business owner everywhere. And then the war happened, and then when people came back from the war, again, I don't have my dates and timelines, it's specific to exactly what, but then the industrial age started, and that started the whole blue collar work, which is then eventually turned to corporations, turned to white collar work. So blue collar turned into white collar. So the thought process of going to work, getting your benefits, that whole thing started after, I think, World War II. And prior to World War II, really World War I, but people were business owners. That was the whole thought process. You want to own your own business, and we have a family business. Our business made shoes or whatever.
And your kid grows up to be a carpenter or whatever the family thing is.
Whatever traders, you know what I'm saying? So
you make pizzas, your family gonna make pizzas. Right?
And the percentage has substantially decreased about business owners because there's so many people working in white collar businesses. But in successful small business owners are a lot less now too. So this is kind of the history and trajectory of how things have changed over time. But if you want to go back in time and be an owner, you have to know how things work now and how they got to where they are now. So
that's dope. I like that. What book is that? If you don't mind me asking.
That is Rich Dad Poor Dad, the Investor's Guide, which is actually one of my top books.
We'll get into that. Hold that. We'll get into that because I got a question for you at the end of this that we can definitely bring that out a little bit more. Man, that's dope, man. So tell us about how the real estate thing going, man. I know a lot of people have definitely got aspirations to real estate, and even just talking about Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? That's one of the key things that book talks about in general, is making sure that you're investing in real estate. I, for one, I think there are 3 aspects to just attaining wealth in general. One is making sure that you can create your own business in some way, shape, or form. Number 2 is invest in stocks. And number 3 is invest in real estate. I think those 3 things are critical to changing a person's financial future. So how does your portfolio look from the real estate perspective?
So I met my wife when I was 30. I'm gonna go back to that for a reason. When I met her, she just bought her first rental property, and she was not owning. So she was living at her parents' house. I know she might shoot me for saying this. She was living at her parents' house in an apartment in Southside Chicago, and there's a property that came available dirt cheap, not too far from where she lived at. She had either lived there or rented it out. And so prior to me meeting her, she decided to rent it out. So I met her like a month after she made this purchase. And it's kind of really made me see her mindset. When I talk about mindset, right? It was like, man, this girl's attractive, and she thinking about long-term wealth.
She owned it,
So I talked to her. There was another property that was on the bottom floor of the same building that had the same deal. I said, go ahead and get it. She went ahead and got it. So now she had 2 properties in the same building.
So now she can watch it, be her own property manager.
Dirt cheap. No, she got it for the low. And it rents at a very good place, so the break even is stupid. And it's in the hood of Chicago. People rent. It's a rental market. Chicago's a rental market. So now me and her got in a relationship. We got together. We got engaged. We got married. She still had those 2 properties, but we noticed that in Chicago specifically, there is an area where it's just more of a rental market. People just rent, and there are houses for sale in that same market. So we started searching for properties in that same market. It took some time, but eventually got a 3rd one. Another building, another condo. That's how we got a 3rd one. Another good break-even situation. The property we have in Charlotte was specific because it's downtown Charlotte. It's close to where the Hornets play basketball. I'm gonna say maybe it's like 3 blocks away from where the Hornets play basketball at. That is a rental property. It's gonna be a rental property. And we just bought another townhome, which is not too far from that one. But we use the money that we got from the rental properties to pay for our living expenses. So we look at it like that's kind of like the residual income that you get from properties. We don't use it to buy hats and buy clothes or whatever. We're using that money to pay for our mortgage.
Listen to that. These are jewels right now that we're going to have to bring out. Go ahead.
So you think about taxable income, and that income, depending where you put it, you could work around it. It has tax shells to it. So if I make $100 from rental property, I can use that $100 how I please. Compared to making money by selling something for $100, I have to pay the tax man for making that money. There's a lot of things around that, but like you said, that residual income from rental properties should be in your portfolios heavily if you're looking to build that long-term wealth.
Man, that's important, man. I love it. And even just outside the rental perspective, right? Like if you're currently renting and you're thinking about owning, I mean, just at least start doing the due diligence to know what it takes to buy your first home. Because I mean, a lot of people think your first real estate investment has to be for a rental. It can be the place that you live, you know what I mean? Because you have to live somewhere, so you're paying either rent or a mortgage. You might as well pay the mortgage to start accumulating some of those tax benefits that you're speaking of right there. So, I mean, like I was like 22 when I bought my first home, and I mean, honestly, it was the best decision I ever made. Like, and if you haven't, check out NACA.com. It's actually a program. It's the same program I went through. So, I mean, I fully vouch for it. They don't advertise, but it's a program that basically helps people buy homes. You know what I mean? So if your credit's not all the way up to par, they'll work with you through that process. They don't use a credit score, which at that time my credit was actually pretty good, but I went through the program because I knew they can find me a very good interest rate, and it's all nonprofit. So their ambition is not to make money; it's to ensure that, you know, people are not getting screwed on their mortgages. Like on my first property, I was able to negotiate like a 1.83 interest rate on my first home. Like, and the people that know me that may have came to my first crib, people would come in like, "Yo, how can you afford this?" Like, I got a 1.83 interest rate. You know what I mean? Like, I was like 21 with a 3-bedroom, like 2,300 square crib. And like, it was because the interest rate was so low. But again, all that went into me doing due diligence, researching. I wasn't in no rush, so I didn't feel pressured. and just waited for the opportune time, man. Like it was. So I remember this story like the back of my like it was yesterday. It was literally New Year's Eve. I'm sitting walking through the mall. I'm about to go to 935. You know, about to get fresh for the New Year's Eve party, or New Year's party. And they called me at like 3 o'clock. Like, hey, you know, you came by and looked at a house in earlier this month. It's the end of the year. We have to hit our numbers. You know, what's the like? Are you still interested? I'm like, all right. What's the best offer you can do? Man, they threw out an offer that was so nuts. I was like, wait, y'all selling it for that cheap? Man, I'm coming by right now. I went literally stopped everything I was doing, went signed the paper just to get it done. But to your point, like just being in position, getting ready, so that when it is time to pull the trigger, man, you can take advantage of the market, man, because it's gonna always go up, it's gonna always go down, but you have to be in position to take advantage, man. And it's an easy way to get that money because, you know, once you start getting equity in a home, you know, things change drastically for your life. You know what I mean? And you know, that's just again something that we're definitely gonna talk about here a lot more. I got a few other people that I want to bring in to just talk real estate specific, that have, you know, moved out of corporate America into just the real estate business because that's their bread and butter right now.
That's dope.
But yeah, I mean, you can see I'm very passionate about that.
That's true. I think that being in the right position and making sure that you are thinking about the right way, like having the right mentors, and a lot of things I don't know. I didn't know a lot about real estate. I had to do a lot of research on my own and found a brother that was into the game. I just learned from him. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's the best way to go about it. I mean, it sounds like you found a very sweet deal, man, and took advantage at the right time instead of like ignoring it. You put yourself out there. You know what I'm saying? What
was one of the things that you didn't know before the real estate process that you kind of researched and learned now? Because I mean, one of the things we are different here is we want to be resources to the people that watch, right? That can actually leave with something that, you know, they can implement tomorrow if need be.
PMI. So PMI is if you pay under 20% to buy a house, it is a insurance that is taxed onto your mortgage. So let's say your mortgage was $1,000, your PMI might be $100. So now your mortgage is $1,100. That $100 is going to the bank, and it's not going towards your principal. It's not going towards your interest. It's just going into thin air. PMI is annoying. Nobody wants PMI, but nobody doesn't really have 20%. What I learned this year, honestly, was that if your property value goes up, then that means the value of the house is more than what it was before, right? So let's say your property value goes from $100,000 to $150,000. That means you'll be within that 20% range, and that PMI just falls off. The bank won't tell you that. Nobody will tell you that. I learned through a loan officer. She just told us, like, hey, you know, you can take off your PMI. I was like, I can take off my PMI. I said, wow, yeah, your property value went up, and now you're within that 20% of what the new value is.
Interesting. I didn't know this either. This is the gem that I'm learning. I didn't know this.
So I got the house reappraised for the value that it was last sold at, and the value went up. Now within the 20%, and now the PMI just goes out the window. The bank sent somebody to check my house to see the value of it. Then they sent the email, and they sent the letter in the mail saying your PMI will drop off. And October will be the first month that we won't have PMI moving forward.
And see, that's an extra $150, and that's depending on what your PMI payment is. That's an extra little change that you could put back in your pocket, you know, every month. You know what I mean? Between that and like a refinance, especially right now, I mean, rates are as low as they've been in a long time. So I mean, if your credit is in good standing, like you can get some very good rates and save a lot of money right now when it comes to real estate. Man, that's dope. That's super dope.
And people don't understand the whole rate game too. The lower the rate is, the less you pay per month.
For sure.
The less you're throwing out the window. Like the higher the rate is, the more money you're just throwing out the window. Throwing out the window means the interest you're paying on the mortgage. So a lot of people don't understand that. But from a general standpoint, you want to pay the bank as least as possible.
Right.
When you're buying a house, and those are two ways. So the PMI thing is something I learned this year, and I was like, wow, you know, that's nobody said anything about it. The banks won't tell you, even if your value goes up. Even if you're in within your 20% by making your regular payments, the bank won't tell you. Man, you have to check for it yourself.
Hey man, what I'm hearing right now is again, it all comes back to detail. What was the phrase you was using that coach said?
Championship is in detail.
Championship is in the detail, man. Like reading those little fine print areas that can help save an extra $300-400 a month. That, I mean, to be honest, that could be a mortgage on a rental property that can bring in $500 a month. You know, so hey, these are little hacks that we got to really start to pay attention to and research for ourselves, right? But again, man, the key word there is research, man. You know, one of our 7 pillars is education. It doesn't necessarily mean going out to get your your master's or a doctorate. It means just picking up a book in whatever area of interest that you're inquisitive about and get to it.
On the education piece, you cannot say I don't know. That is like one of my pet peeves when somebody says, "Oh, I don't know how to whatever." We live you got a phone.
Yeah.
You got a phone. Like use this. You can figure it out.
Google is one step away.
You can figure it out in 10 minutes.
What Jay say, Google your friend, bruh.
Yeah, exactly. Now, also when it comes to even real estate, like you could get a book to learn more about it. You could find out more about whatever area you're interested in. I don't know how to trade stocks. Well, you can find out about it. They have a book called Stock Trading for Dummies. You know, they got so you can always figure out a way to learn more about any aspect of parenting, fatherhood.
That's real.
Christian life. You go through the whole, all your pillars. You know what I'm saying? Like each one of those, you can learn more about if you really want to put that focus into it.
That's real. And and that's for me. That's why I wanted to create the 7 pillar system, because I think we can't hang our hat on being one thing, right? I talk to a lot of brothers. They may be hustling. You know what I'm saying? Hey man, I've been out here trapping. I made such and such amount of money, but it's a lot of other areas that they could work on. But the pride can be something. It can be a downfall, because if you're making money and that's the only thing that you're boosting your ego up on, like you still can have a lot of different flaws. And again, I'm not perfect. You know what I'm saying? And I got my own areas, but I try to be cognizant of the areas I need to improve, so it doesn't turn into bigger issues down the line. It's like, oh wait, that's an issue now. Let me catch it early, and again, get the education about it, or go to a mentor about it, see how they may have handled those things, to really try to make sure that I cut my losses as early as possible.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, what's your because you got a lot going on, man, from corporate to family. Like, how do you balance a lot of this without getting too stressed out, or making sure that your energy and time is spent in the right areas?
So a lot of people think that balance is the key of life. I've learned that prioritization is the key to life. And
that's another gem. I'm taking that one too.
So if you have 5 things to get done, you have your level of prioritization. Obviously, most people is family first or God first. So for me, it's God first and family. But whatever you have to go down that tiers and then make your decision on whatever you have got going on.
For sure.
I'm blessed to pre-plan a week. So I try to, on Sundays or Saturdays, I pre-plan the week. Sometimes now Fridays.
We talked about
that.
But
I pre-plan the week. And by pre-planning the week, it sets me up in the right space. Usually, some things I do get done, some things I don't get done, but I never feel overrushed and overwhelmed. Even though I'm adding more stuff to my plate, I just plan it out. And so every time I'm doing something, it is important but not urgent.
That's real.
Like this to me, coming here today was important, but it wasn't urgent. I didn't drive 90 miles per hour to get to your house.
Because it was already on the list. Like we had this scheduled, 4 or 5 weeks ago.
I knew I was coming here. Even yesterday, I said, hey, just text me any information, so I can just know what I'm walking into. And that's the way I kind of approach everything. I know I gotta leave here, I gotta get a haircut after this. I have that plan, and I'm doing a photo shoot later today. So that's how today is planned right now. I had time with my daughter earlier today, and I had this day planned in my head about 3-4 days ago.
That's real.
And that's how I kind of plan my week. I don't over plan, but I do enough that I don't under plan.
So if you need to make adjustments, again, it's because of something that is the priority is just that important. But you've been able to analyze it to make a strong decision on it. And I think that's important too, because even with you saying that, if you read in between the lines, it can help you learn and identify what you say no to. Like a lot of people have time or have issues telling people no or helping people, when in reality, doing that prioritization every week, it helps you say, all right, as much as I would like to go feed the homeless this week, like I've already had spending this time with the family on the radar, so I just can't do it. You know what I mean? Saying no to good, to say yes to great, will always be one of those things that push us forward. I think that's good though, man, because it's funny you say that, man. I implemented this at the same thing actually at the beginning of the year after going through my own coaching sessions and things like that, and it feels kind of corny at first, man. It's like, I don't want to sit out here and write out my schedule every night or every Sunday or whatever the case may be, but it legit helps. And if it legit helps, I mean, I don't care what you call it, if it works, you got to implement it.
Yeah,
man. Championships in the details.
Yeah, I say don't knock it till you try it. You know what I'm saying? I think that we wear different hats. You wear the hat as a father, you wear a hat as a son, you wear a hat as a worker. We have these different hats. Each hat has their own priority. Each hat has their things to be done every week. Each hat has, you know, their own deadlines. And I think if you write down those things, you could literally say, okay, well, this I could do on this day, this I could do on that day. And then when the week actually comes up, you might make a couple adjustments here and there, but you have everything on all your hats. Because you can't win at everything. You can't. It's impossible. Some days you can feel like I'm a great dad, but I'm a horrible worker. Some days you're like, I killed at work, but I'm not good at home. It's just going to happen that way. You have to be okay with that.
Man, you know the visual I just got when you said that? It's like a quarterback, right? Like, you know, your coach is going to give you the play in the huddle. You know, in that play he just gave what your options are before they start. And they usually come in order. All right, I got my receiver. That's my first option. Second option is my slot man. My backside is my third option. But if you get to the line and you already see this play needs to be scrapped, call an audible. You know what I mean? It's the same process when it comes to our lives every day. Like we got to make sure that we got a list of plays in our head to where if this one on the table ain't finna work, we just gonna scrap it, call the next play, get 4 yards, and keep playing, man.
That's good. That's
dope, though. I love, man. This has been fun, man. This has been super fun, bro. Man, to be honest, man, like, hey, I think we've covered a lot of different topics, man. I think we've touched on a lot of different things that, you know, men are watching right now could be able to take something from. You know what I mean? If it's something or a principle or a value or more that, you know, you can leave or inspire the people with, like, what would that be?
Have a personal mission statement. Companies have personal mission statements. I think every person should have their own personal mission statement that's very specific to you.
That's dope.
They have a website called Personal Mission Statement. What's it called? Franklin Covey is the authors of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
I'll include it here at the bottom too. It's probably popping up right now.
And if you go to that site, they have a guide on how to create your own personal mission statement.
Dope.
And this will help you fine tune whatever you have going forward because you have your core values in one sentence.
And it's funny you say that because if you're having issues finding your, like, this is what I'm here for. Reach out to me in my DM. Reach out to me on my webpage, which is boardroom-vision.com. Like, we help bring that purpose to life, man. And like, if you don't have it, it's very important to get it, man. Like, my personal mission statement is to help young men not make the same mistakes that I made. Like, it sounds simple, but it's a real thing, and it comes from a passion in me to make sure that anyone behind me ain't gotta deal with some of the stuff I dealt with, man. Because I personally think that if my alarm clock would have came on a little bit earlier, like, we would be better off. And if I could put someone else in a better position, it would be perfect, man. What's your personal mission statement?
So I serve as a leader, live a balanced life, invest in yourself, making God and your family proud. So again, serve as a leader, live a balanced life, a prioritized life, invest in yourself, and making God and your family proud.
That's dope.
So that is my personal mission statement. It actually spells out my nickname Slim, SLIM. But yeah, so that's what I kind of came up with. So what happens when you do the generator? It pops out this whole long paragraph, and I kind of took that and condensed it into one sentence.
That's dope
for myself. But yeah, and I did have it on my cube at work, but then now we're not at work anymore. But yeah,
man, I would be remiss though because you touched on this and we hadn't yet, and this is honestly the main foundation or principle that we have as a pillar. Making God proud. What does that mean to you? Like, how does your faith play into the man that you are right now, and how did that come about? I mean, I know earlier in the conversation you said you grew up in church, but like, how has that developed from back then to the man that you are today?
It's crazy. So my mom is heavy into church. She always been heavy into church. She went through some traumatic things as a young woman. Come from Jamaica to the States, and that kind of bled into her falling to Christ and kind of being a really religious person. So I grew up in church as a kid, didn't really pay attention in church, I'm just being honest. Went to Catholic high school, went to a Christian college. It didn't take till maybe 3 or 4 years after, around that 27-year mark, where I actually started taking religion seriously.
Right.
Going to church was kind of like,
Yeah.
It was like one of those things where I just went, to make my mom happy and stuff like that. Whatever.
I've said it on this platform too. I was actually tired of going to church by the time I got out on my own because I was there so much.
Yeah. So the thing about it is, I gave my life to Christ. I think when I was like 26, there was a service, was a preacher at the church I went to in Brooklyn, and just kind of like he spoke to me, kind of like as many times as I heard them make an altar call prior to that, I was like never felt like going up. But this time he said some things that hit home. Had to be around family stuff, women stuff, yada yada yada. Anyway, gave my life to Christ at 26, and then I had a revelation at 27, which kind of, that's how God works, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then my walk with Christ became more serious. I started being more intentional about how I read the Word, how I understand it, how important me hearing a good sermon was to me after that. Because I heard a lot of bad sermons, a lot of bad preachers, a lot of people that
it didn't seem authentic.
Exactly. And then fast forward to when I went to DC at Howard. I found a really good church at Howard that had virtual sermons, and I got really more into the Word while I was at Howard. Kind of stayed with that church virtually for a while until I came to Charlotte, and then I fell into Elevation where I'm at now, and my faith is way more stronger. It was kind of crazy. All them years of me not paying attention, I would say all 20-something years of me not paying attention, there's so many things that was instilling in me that I didn't really realize until now. I'm at hearing my pastor now. He'll say something that will remind me of something my mom used to say all the time.
That's real.
It'd be so weird. He would start talking and he'll say like a scripture just like in his sermon.
That's real.
And he wouldn't pull a scripture. He'd just say something, and it's like I could just finish the sentence for him because mom used to say all the time, or I heard a song all the time, all the hymns my mom used to play back in the day. And it means something now. So now it sticks. So like, oh, now I get it. Now it makes sense.
For sure.
So my day-to-day walk is in the mornings. I have the Bible app, and I have a Bible plans. I kind of go through the Bible plans in the morning. First thing in the morning, I have like a crazy ritual, my first 20 minutes a day. And part of my ritual is sitting down, getting some time in the Word, praying over my daughter, over my wife, over my family, and then reading a scripture or two, kind of trying to get it to sit in. Some mornings it does, some mornings, I'm not being honest, some mornings it just doesn't sit in. Like I read it and I kind of don't really get much, but kind of moving. Yeah. Some mornings I actually kind of get something and I kind of take it throughout the day. But
the fact that you're consistent though allows God to speak way more often than if you didn't read at all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Being in tune, I think, is very important, because even just reading the Word, being around other Christians too, because they're able to get a word sometimes and give it to you, and you feed off that.
That is true.
But man, everything you're saying right now is legit, bro.
Yeah.
And before we go, I want to actually just kind of talk about what you just said with your morning routine.
Okay.
Because I follow you on IG. If you guys don't, you can drop your handle real quick.
Oh yes, TSN304. So my name and my birthday. So
I'll put it at the bottom as well. Yeah. But man, this brother is up 5 days a week. He works out, and then apparently he's reading the Bible beforehand. He works out. Yeah. And he's doing a lot more before we even wake up than a lot of people do in a full day. Yeah. So talk about that morning routine a little bit and how that was instilled in you.
7 Habits is a book. The book I read kind of helped me think about this in the first place. But my routine is I wake up at 4:45.
In the AM,
not
PM.
I wake up at 4:45. I sit down, handle my stomach situation,
right?
And I get basically I listen to or I read a sermon, pieces of a sermon, about 15 minutes. I'm out the house about honestly like 5:15, 5:20ish. My gym is super close to my house. It's about a 5-minute drive. I get there early. The gym doesn't open until 6. I warm up. I do stretching, jumping jacks, jump rope and all that stuff. By the time the gym opens, my body's warmed up and I can just kind of jump into the workout. Prior to me working out, this is how I think. I already have the workout pre-planned. So I have, let's say a set of 6 workouts, 2 minutes each, 3 rounds each, and it adds up to about 45 minutes total. Gotcha. It's a lot of math right there. But basically, 45-minute workouts already preset before I even walk in the door. And then when I walk in the door, I have people that meet me there. They know the workout. I sent them through IG or whatever, so they kind of know what to set up and how things will look and feel because they know how I operate. And then we work out till about close to 7 o'clock. We do an ab workout at the end of that. I walk out. I get home about 7:15. My wife wakes up about 7:15, 7:20 every day. And then we start the day. I make breakfast for the family, and then we just start the work day. And I do that 5 days a week, pretty consistently now. It feels weird when I don't do it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I feel that. But that's important, man. Because you got to be balanced, man. And again, one of the pillars is health.
Yeah.
Like being able to work out, eat right, and that's the other. I mean, I know Tim, man. This is one of my boys. Like we used to do lunch, seeing with this guy. Like he has meal prep, lean meat, you know, veggies. Like it's a lifestyle for him, man. And like, you know, a lot of that has even rubbed off on me. I mean, I work out 5 days a week now, and like, but it ain't at 6 o'clock. I tried the morning thing for a while, but with COVID, you know, I just kind of sneak it in when I can sneak it in now. But we still going 5 days a week. But I think it's important because not only just the working out piece, what you're putting into your body is something else that just kind of affects you all day, man. Like, do you agree?
Yeah, no, 100% agree. What I try to do is not eat after 8 p.m. So what happens is 8 p.m. and then I talk about the routine I do in the morning. I don't eat until about 8 o'clock in the morning. So that's 12 hours with no food in your stomach. So what your stomach does is recycles every 4 hours. So every 4 hours you have gastro movement in one way or another. In 4 hours your stomach resets. That's why you get hungry exact same time as midday, morning, and evening. It's 4 hours apart exactly. So mathematically, I'm getting too many numbers here, but basically you go through 3 cycles. So 12 hours. 12 times 3 times 4 is 12. So basically, your stomach goes 3 cycles of emptiness. So by the time you start in the morning, you restart again. And you could drink water on your stomach, and then your body will react a lot better to whatever you eat afterwards. And hopefully you're eating pretty good.
Right.
Even if you don't, though, you'll be in a good space if you try to do 8 to 8, no food every day.
See, that's a tidbit right there. You guys can implement that now.
Yes, easy.
You know what I mean? Just stop eating so late.
It sounds easy, but them snacks around 10 o'clock is heavy not to touch. It's hard not to touch a snack. 10 o'clock, you be looking like, them cookies, one cookie, chips. So the way I get around that is I drink a lot of water. Like I just drink a lot. Like I OD on water, and that helps kind of subside the snackiness feeling. I might cheat on a weekend, maybe Friday, Saturday sometimes. But other than that, you know, Sunday through Thursday is pretty consistent.
No, for sure. Like, man, I actually started a juicing journey 2 weeks ago, man. And I mean, even with that, like, I felt my body like just like kick up into another level of like just zeness. I don't want to use that word, but like
I know what you mean.
Just fruits, like fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, along with my smoothies. Just detoxifying myself, doing cleanses, because like, man, whenever the Chad with Boseman thing happened, man, like man, it just hit different, bro. Like I was thinking about his life, how he was diagnosed at 38 with colon cancer. Like I'm 34 I'll be 34 when this come out. And for me thinking like, man, it's like 5 years. He diagnosed at 38. Like you're 38 now. Like that makes you think at life different. When you're in your 20s, you don't think about your immortality at all, bro. No. But like as you start to get older, it's like, man, I gotta be a little bit more wiser. I gotta be intentional about what I'm putting in my body. And I mean, honestly, it has been rewarding, because at the end of the day, like going back to the faith thing, when I see God, I want to be able to say, hey, I did everything that I could on my end. You know what I mean? Now, if there's some unforeseeable circumstances outside of that, that just happened to be what it is. But if I can say I've done everything I'm supposed to do, I can confidently give my give my side of the story, and hopefully it's accepted and I enter into with a crown. But you know, that's a lot of the things that driving me right now.
That's good, man. I think that things like this, helping to build other people, how you make your natural skill sets help other, that's kind of where our purpose is, right? You have your natural skill sets, and then you should use your natural skills to kind of see how does that fit to help somebody else. For sure. And you're doing that now with this podcast. Like, this is dope. You know what I'm saying?
I appreciate you joining on, man. Like, I think this is gonna be good, man. Just allowing people to be a fly on the wall, listening to. I mean, and I don't think we say this enough in our community, but bro, I'm proud of you. Yes. Like, man, from a personal perspective to a family perspective, man, just keep going, bro. Like, your trajectory is one that I'm watching. You know, like some people, man, you meet in life and like, you know, they gonna be good regardless of the fact. Like, Tim is one of them people for me, man. Like, you know, we oftentimes text each other just to check up on us, make sure each other are good. But like, I know he's gonna be good no matter what, man. And you know, I got confidence in you, and whatever you do is gonna be successful.
Thank you.
So, man, I appreciate you for just jumping on. Yeah. All right. So as we get ready to conclude, I know we like to try to end every episode with a top 7. You know, it kind of goes along with the theme of the 7 pillars of focus. Yeah. And this week I want to do something a little bit different and try to focus on whatever your top 7 favorite books.
Okay. All right. Let's do it. So the first book I had in mind was Extreme Ownership. That book talks about leadership from how to be a leader on the front lines in combat. But anytime there's something that happens and somebody who reports to you, no matter if you didn't have nothing to do with it, you have to take ownership of it.
That's
real. It's called Extreme Ownership. It talks about a lot of different real life examples of war examples that happen and how that translates to life and family. The second book is something that I actually got the morning routine from. It's called The One Thing. How cause and effect, how one thing you could change in your life could have a bigger trajectory over time.
Okay.
So what one thing you could do now to get yourself a six-pack next year?
That's crazy. My wife is actually reading that book right now.
Yeah, the book is dope. The book is fire. The book is fire. So I use that with my morning routine that we kind of talked about before. Like, what one thing can I do today or every day that will help me live a sustainable life when I'm 60 years old? I could still stay fit.
Dope.
Right? Talk Like Ted. So anybody heard of TED Talks? Is when you have a public speaking. So the book talks about how public speaking works, different parts about public speaking, and how you could talk like a TED talker. So it's very specific. It's called Talk Like TED. That's a good one too.
That sounds dope.
Next one is This Is the Day. Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow obviously is known for football, but he's also an avid Christian.
Absolutely.
And the thought process of that book talks about how every day is a day that God made. Obviously, we know that, but we have to live like it. And he talks about a lot of scenarios we had to sit down and pray with people or bring his faith to the forefront in the hard scenarios. When it came to him playing baseball and football, it's a very good book.
That's dope.
This is the day. Next one is Subtle Art of Not Giving Up.
Yeah.
That book is very detailed about how it's not saying don't care. It's saying don't care about the wrong things, right? Make sure you care about the right things. So he talks about a lot of details about something tragic that happened to him with his best friend and how that made him think about what really matters, right? I shouldn't care about these things. I shouldn't care about these really specific things that help me become a bigger person.
That sounds just like how you get to your prioritization as well. So I can definitely see that being one of your favorite books.
Exactly.
Just because of that whole mind state.
The next one, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I swear by this book. This book is amazing. It impacted me probably the most to this point in my life. Like, there's so many parts of that book that I listen to that book once every 2 years.
Wow.
So, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. I strongly suggest you should read that or listen to it at least once. But once you hear it once, once every 2 years, I always have it in my January, the beginning of the year, to start me off right.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
Is that impactful?
That's dope.
The last one is one I referred to a bunch of times, Rich Dad Poor Dad, but not his first book, which is the one that everybody kind of heard.
Right.
It's a second book that he had called Rich Dad's Guide to Investing. So if you don't know the book at all, it's about a man in Hawaii who had his regular father, who was a government official, and then his best friend's father, who was like let's say an owner of a bunch of 7-Elevens in Hawaii, how that dad ended up becoming very wealthy over time versus his actual dad, who ended up becoming very broke over time. There's a lot of things that in the mindset of someone who's a worker versus someone who's an entrepreneur,
Absolutely.
and the benefits over time between those two.
Absolutely.
This book talks about how that rich dad, the one who ended up becoming very wealthy, how he taught him things, step-by-step process of how to become wealthy.
It's a resource.
The book is extremely dope. If you want to think about how to think rich, how to do things like a rich person, how to become rich, that book has a bunch of gems, from stock trading to the book is dope. So and I listened to that book a few times. I actually listened twice this year already. So on Audible,
so, and that's the proof in the pudding there.
Yeah. So those are my 7 books.
Man, hey, well, I'm definitely going to include a link at the end of this. If I hadn't included what he was saying, I want you guys to be able to check that out, man. Also, follow him, man. Shout out to @, man.
Oh yeah,
Anybody shout out to?
So basically, my Instagram is TSN304. So you just see me, my wife, my family on there. I have this hat I'm wearing. It's called Halo. It's my cousin Marcus. Halo has a mantra about living a spiritual life. Halo, like a halo, Christian halo.
Sure.
And ironically, his daughter's name is Halo.
That's dope.
But if you want to get some cool hats and represent Christ, it's a cool little brand. So Halo, HALOD, Haloed. And those are the main things. We do events in Charlotte. So if you're in Charlotte, Nurse Monthly Mingle.
Yeah, and we didn't even get into that, man. But like Nurse Monthly Mingle is, man, it's very, very philanthropic, man. A lot of the proceeds that they collect, as far as from the price of admission, things of that nature, man. They go to supporting local charities, nonprofit organizations here in Charlotte, man. So Tim is doing a lot of things here in the community as far as making change from that perspective, man. So I commend you on that.
Thank you, bro. Have fun and give back. That's what we kind of try to do. We try to turn up a little bit, but also try to give back. So
hey, man, I like the sound of both of those.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me, brother.
Man, I appreciate you, man. Again, if I hadn't said it public, this is my chance. I'm proud of you, brother.
Thank you.
Appreciate you for coming, blessing us with your time, man, and we don't take it for granted, man. So, hey, I appreciate y'all for tuning in to the Boardroom this week. This is the Kickback, and come check us out, man, on all our follows at Boardroom Vision, on all our social media, from Twitter to Facebook to Instagram, as well as our website, which is boardroom-vision.com. So, man, I see y'all on the other side of this, and here where we turn vision into motivation, man. Peace.